News of the day.
Mr. Zimmerman, have you made a decision as to whether or not you want to testify in this case?
With values that never die.
There are certainly a lot of controversies or scandals brewing right now when it comes to the Obama administration.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Dealing with the federal government is not always high-tech, and it's not always user-friendly.
The stories that matter.
This is a massive escalation in the tension here in Egypt.
The issues that count.
I don't know why the media tries to make this into a sensation. We have never hidden the fact that we supply Syria with weapons.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
He's got the red, white, blue flying high on the farm. Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spend a little more in the store for a tag in the back of his.
Welcome to a special edition of American Heartland with Dr. Grace. I'm the editor of Politics and Culture at worldtribune.com. And today I want to put a spotlight on the Republican candidates and discuss for much of this broadcast the second debate. The primary debate was on. It was held on CNN. The GOP primary candidates came out in full force, trying to showcase their best. There was an undercard debate first with only a few people on the stage, and then the stage was really, really crowded, and a long debate took place, which gave CNN very high ratings. Now, let me begin this special broadcast with a personal note. So my husband and I were really looking forward to the debate. We discussed the menu, what was I going to make. So we made hamburgers and we had salad and fruits and you name it. Everything was laid out. And we were so looking forward to just sitting back and enjoying every minute of this debate because he and I are both political junkies. But our children, I don't know if they knew that it meant a lot to us, that we really wanted to watch this debate. Every 5 to 10 minutes, they needed something or wanted something. It was really aggravating. And I thought to myself, you know, when I was young and my parents went off to do something, whether it was gardening or whatever it was, whatever their hobby was, I generally found a way to entertain myself. But I don't know, is it me? Is it my parenting style? The children come often and say, Mommy, Daddy, you want to play? Can we play? And I'm thinking, you've got a room full of toys. You've got electronic devices. You've got each other. You've got TVs galore. You name it. Entertain yourselves. Do something with yourselves. Anyways, I don't know what it is. I don't know if nowadays, because we spend so much time with our children, they see us as friends, so we're also supposed to entertain them at all times. But I know when I was a kid, I kind of liked being away from my parents. I don't think I was anywhere near as clingy. Nonetheless, my husband and I managed to watch this debate, notwithstanding all these interruptions. And I want to begin not by talking first and foremost about what the media is saying about this debate or other people's perceptions. I just want to lay out clearly what I saw that night, what stands out for me. And I believe that there was a clear winner that night. Chris, by the way, would you be able to get a drum roll so I can make a grand statement here? There was a clear winner in this debate. And it's not who, for the most part, I'm hearing in the media everybody is talking about. The real winner of this debate was Chris Christie. I think he won hands down, no question about it. Now, he hasn't done very well in the polls lately, and it is because, for the most part, he's still struggling to come out from under the shadow of the Bridgegate scandal. And he's still struggling with Republican primary voters because they so dislike what he did when he gave Obama a hug and basically gave him the last election. So they resent him for that. He was initially going to be the front runner, everybody had said, and then his numbers tanked. And yet, what we saw on the stage this week was the Chris Christie that everybody used to talk about. The reason why he did become a governor of New Jersey, not once, but 2 times. The reason why he has been seen as a darling, as a star of the Republican Party. And why is that? He was in command that night. He had a strong presence. He's extremely intelligent. I've seen him not just in that debate, but recently on many, many interviews that he's given. As a former prosecutor, he really understands the Constitution, he understands the legal structure, and he knows how to go after his opponents. He's really taken on Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama in interviews that I've seen on the cable news networks. Now, on that stage, what I found most impressive was that he was often able to redirect the conversation to the people. This ultimately isn't a contest of prima donnas. It's about the needs of the people. And he was the only one that brought attention to that. And that scored big in my view. Listen to Chris Christie making his case.
I turned 18 in 1980, and my first vote was for Ronald Reagan. Boy, am I glad I did it. And I think the country is too. A Christie presidency won't be about me. It'll be about you. Tonight you sit at home in your living room frustrated that you play by the rules, you pay the taxes, you do the hard things to raise your family. Yet you feel like America's generosity is being taken advantage of, that your system is being gamed, and that you're turning out to fall further and further behind. Our presidency will be about ending that, about enforcing the law, level the playing field for everybody, and once again reward those folks who play by the rules and think that justice means more than just a word, but it means a way of life. And I will tell you this, around the world, I will not shake hands with, I will not meet with, and I will not agree to anything with a country that says death to us and death to Israel and holds our hostages while we sign agreements with them. It'll be an America strong and resolute and will once again be able to stick out its chest and say, we truly are the greatest nation in the world because we live our lives that way each and every day.
Now that, for me, was a standout moment of the debate. And he did it several times. Now, one time, he even told Carly Fiorina and Donald Trump to stop talking about their careers, that it really wasn't important. And how is that all relevant, what they were saying? How is that all relevant to the 55 construction worker out there who is struggling right now and who needs help? I thought he stepped just a little bit out of line in the sense that the track record of Carly Fiorina and Donald Trump is valid. It's a valid source of discussion. He has a governing record. They have a record as leaders of business. So their record is different in its genre, but it is very telling about them. So they have every right to discuss it. They have every right to, folks have a right to challenge it. They have a right to defend themselves. So I thought he stepped just a little bit out of line. But for the most part, I thought he was dead right, because he was the only one that brought the whole discussion down to the needs of the folks. And that clip we just played is really important. You play by the rules, but you're not getting ahead. That's the fundamental problem in America now. And I liked it that he said that he's going to focus on justice, not just enforcing the law and upholding the Constitution, but really what America has always been about is that if you work hard and play by the rules, what is just is that you succeed. And the system is now skewered. That's not happening. We're losing faith in the American way. And by addressing the needs of the individuals, and by saying, I'm talking about our presidency, I thought he struck the right note. And if it continues on that, I think you're going to see his poll numbers go up and up and up. This is a guy who is smart. He has been a former prosecutor, so he really understands the law. He has a strong governing record in New Jersey, a conservative governing record. And he also is really savvy in foreign affairs. And I think he showcased every element of that, as well as showing what a really good debater he is. So in my view, Chris Christie won that debate, and I do believe you're going to see he's going to get a bounce. Now, there was another standout moment for me, and you might be surprised at what it was. This actually came from Jeb Bush. He finally showed some fight. Roll the clip, Chris.
The world works is really dangerous in this kind of time that we're saying. So is that the judgment that you bring to the table, that Hillary Clinton is a great negotiator, that she could bring about a better
Your
deal
brother
with Iran?
and your brother's administration gave us Barack Obama because it was such a disaster those last 3 months that Abraham Lincoln couldn't have been elected.
You know what? As it relates to my brother, there's one thing I know for sure. He kept us safe. I don't know if you remember, Donald. You remember the rubble? You remember the firefighter with his arms around it? He sent a clear signal that the United States would be strong and fight Islamic terrorism, and he did keep us safe.
I don't know, you feel safe right now? I don't feel so safe.
Well, I thought that Jeb Bush was right on point. He basically did what the party needs to do. They're not going to succeed going forward if they're constantly throwing George W. Bush under the bus. What is the vision of the Republican Party going forward? Why don't they embrace the things that were done right? Otherwise, they sound like Democrats, and they're undercutting their own brand. Jeb Bush stood firm to say George W. Bush kept us safe. And there's no doubt about that. After 9/11, he was so forceful in going after the enemies of this country that there wasn't another attack on our land. And the problems in the Middle East really ensued following his departure when Barack Obama withdrew precipitously. Now, in that clip, what you heard is Jeb Bush showing some real fight at last and not running away from the past. And the Republican Party has to also do that. You can't run away from the past of your own party. Otherwise, as I said, you're destroying the very brand that you're trying to tell people to elect. Now, Trump, I thought, fared very badly in that exchange because Jeb attacked him for his previous positive statements about Hillary Clinton. And instead of answering that, he basically dodged it. And he talked about Jeb Bush's brother and made it personal. I thought that was a nasty side swipe. He shouldn't have gone there. And Jeb Bush did the right thing in that moment, standing firm. And he wasn't standing firm as a brother. He was standing firm as an American citizen who appreciated what George W. Bush did. Personally, I got to be honest with all of you, I'm disgusted by the constantly spitting on the name of George W. Bush, by the base of the party, by so many pundits. It's disgusting. It's deplorable. Look, he did make some mistakes. There's no question about that. But even if you look at a legacy like that of Ronald Reagan, the government grew under Ronald Reagan's watch. And yet, we have the grace, we have the courtesy to talk about what he did right. And I think we have to do the same thing with George W. Bush. And if the Republicans want to win the next election, they not only have to embrace what they as individuals have done right, but they've also got to project a positive image of the Republican Party. Otherwise, you can't win. Now, you can rebrand the party. You can say it's a fresh face is taking over the party. Whatever it is, however it is you want to do it. But you cannot win the next election by completely running away from the entire legacy of the party that you seek the nomination for. It's utterly absurd. And so I applaud Jeb Bush for standing his ground and reminding us that George Bush kept us safe. So what did I see that night? 2 standout moments. Chris Christie won. And he showed a lot of fight. And Jeb Bush reminded us that George Bush did a great job keeping us safe. Those were highlights. This is Dr. Grace, upholding values that will not die.
But I can make an explosion. And all those things I didn't say were wrecking balls inside my brain. I will scream loud tonight. Can you hear my voice this time? This is my fight song. Take back my life song.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
It happened again. What I see with my own eyes is not what everybody sees. During the debate, I thought very clearly Chris Christie won it. And Jeb Bush had some good moments. I wake up the next morning, and everybody is saying something different. Folks are saying that Carly Fiorina won. And again, I am scratching my head. This is the Twilight Zone. Folks see what I don't see. And others are saying that Donald Trump won. And I'm thinking he didn't win at all. And she didn't win. And the same thing happened last time there was a Republican debate. During the first debate, the undercard debate, it was very clear to me that Rick Santorum won the debate. It wasn't even a contest. He blew Carly Fiorina out of the water. And the next morning I wake up and everybody was saying that Carly Fiorina won. So here we are in the twilight zone of American politics with pundits like Crotheimer saying what I didn't see. Roll it, Chris.
Carly Fiorina.
She gets an A. A minus I would give her. She had, these debates hinge on moments. And she had two great moments. The one where she countered the insult from Trump in a way that was short, surprising, and really electric. And then she had her little riff when she took on, interestingly and improbably, Iran and Planned Parenthood at the same time, extremely strong, carried it off very well. That was the best sort of sound bite, that wasn't a joke, of the evening. I give him the minus slightly because she had a severe demeanor.
Yes, I noticed that as well. If she had smiled a couple of times, she really looked teed off. She looked teed off.
She had a right to be, and she looked rather
but you
tense.
know how politics are. People want to be other people to be accessible.
Well, there they were singing Carly Fiorina's praises again, just like they did last time. The last time they sang her praises so much that it actually propelled her into the front rank, which got her there on the main stage of CNN's debate rather than the undercard debate. She was there on the main stage because the media had said she had done so well. She was so awesome. And they're doing it again, singing her praises. And one of the moments in particular that they are saying she handled so brilliantly was a discussion about her face. So you know the story. In a Rolling Stone article, it was reported that Donald Trump said that somebody with a face like that can't be the next president. And she has said, obviously, I was getting under his skin. And then he went on not to apologize, but to backtrack and to say that he was not actually talking about her face. He was talking about her persona. And, of course, Carly Fiorina, during the debate, was asked the question, how do you respond to the comments that Trump made about your face? Roll it.
Ms. Fiorina, I do want to ask you about this. In an interview last week in Rolling Stone magazine, Donald Trump said the following about you, quote, "Look at that face. Would anyone vote for that? Can you imagine that, the face of our next president?" Mr. Trump later said he was talking about your persona, not your appearance. Please feel free to respond what you think about his persona.
You know, it's interesting to me. Mr. Trump said that he heard Mr. Bush very clearly and what Mr. Bush said. I think women all over this country heard very clearly what Mr. Trump said.
Now, I grant that that was a very good moment for her. She did handle that extremely well. And I think, as I said last week in my analysis, Donald Trump made a mistake, not by saying what he said, because he has said many outlandish things or things that are on people's minds. As long as he sticks to them, it's fine, because that's his personality. He shoots from the hip, and people like that. But I thought the mistake he made was when he backtracked and said, no, I was talking about her persona. He should just stick to his guns. That's what people like about him. And then on that stage, he went on to say, well, Carly, I just want to say you have a beautiful face and you are beautiful. And she stood at the camera looking cold stoned into the camera, and she just basically wasn't buying it. And the audience wasn't buying it. I'm not buying it. It's very obvious that Donald Trump stepped into a trap there. I think the mistake he made was backtracking when he said it was a persona and then saying you're beautiful, you have a beautiful face. Excuse me, Mr. Trump, who cares what you think about somebody's looks? I don't care if you think she's beautiful or not beautiful. This isn't the Miss America pageant. Newsflash, this isn't the Miss America pageant. It doesn't matter if you think she's beautiful or not. So I thought Trump looked very weak, and I thought he stepped into the trap he shouldn't have stepped into. Look, I was one of those people that said there is something wrong with her face, not because of what God did, but what she did to it. She has put too much Botox into it. And I think that what Trump should have done, had that comment, slipped into Rolling Stone as it did, he should have just stuck by it and said, referenced the issue of Botox, and he would have been fine. But he stepped into it and didn't really quite know how to get out of it. And that's not good for him, because slowly a narrative is emerging that he's a misogynist, that he's a chauvinist pig. That narrative is just going to grow. And I think what she did there in that debate, the minute it happened, I turned to my husband and I said, oh my, this is going to be looped and looped and looped and looped. And we're never going to forget it. Donald Trump soared to the polls, soared to the top, regardless of the incendiary statements he made, only when he stuck by those statements. When he starts to backtrack like he has done on this particular statement, then he starts to look like just another slippery politician. And that's really not good for him. Now, about Carly Fiorina. Look, she had good moments. She had 2 good moments. I grant her that. I thought she was very forceful when she talked about Planned Parenthood and how atrocious the videos are and what a shame it is on us if we don't defund Planned Parenthood. She definitely had standout moments. But enough to call her the victor of that debate, I just think we're really stretching it. The problem is this, very clearly. She doesn't have a governing record, and the only track record she has, which was clearly exposed on that stage, her corporate record, it's a mess. You could drive a truck through that record in terms of how many holes and problems there are with it. This woman cannot be our candidate. You're going to have the Democrats present her as far worse than Mitt Romney, because she, in reality, is the kind of corporate shark that the Democrats typically rail against and that the general people typically dislike. She didn't do well in her job, and then she was fired and walked away with a fortune. I mean, that is the Democratic caricature of a greedy capitalist that represents the Republican Party. I thought that flawed record was exposed on the stage. So I don't see how you can say that she won. In addition, her demeanor was so cold, so icy, so inaccessible. that it confirmed my previous impression of her in the first debate. I kept saying, I can't get to what she's saying because I can't get beyond her demeanor. Cold and icy and rigid, just like that Botox face of hers. Now, what about Trump? So here is the Twilight Zone. If it's not Carly Fiorina that's being hailed as the victor, people are saying Trump won. Drudge poll said he won. Newsmax poll said he won. Time poll said he won. And by a large margin. So the people out there believe that he won the debate. By and large, most of the polls, as far as we're seeing so far, are saying that the majority of those who watched the debate believe that Trump won. But Trump didn't win. He is so thin on policy. He doesn't have any policies. Apart from saying two things so far that we know, that he's going to simplify our tax code and he's going to leave it as some kind of graduated tax code, the progressive tax code, where you have several brackets. He's going to tweak those. That's what he said he's going to do. And he's going to build a wall and deport illegals. That's the extent of what we know that he's specifically going to do for us. And he had a golden opportunity as the front runner now to show us that he's ready, he's prepared, he's got policy ideas that he's going to unravel. That's what he should have done. Now, why are people saying that he won? He won because he didn't lose. That's really what they mean. He was attacked and attacked and attacked. And he didn't make some kind of atrocious, dreadful gaffe that he just couldn't recover from. Even this whole Carly Fiorina face thing, he's going to be able to, I believe it'll hurt him in the long run, but he'll still stay afloat. It wasn't fatal. And he's presenting an argument right now that is very compelling. And it is this. He's a successful businessman. And the success that he's achieved in business, he's going to apply those talents and gifts to government. And he'll be able to fix our problems. Now, at this point, if you like him, you say, yeah, he'll be able to do that. I believe him. He'll be able to. He doesn't even have to tell me how. He was successful in business. He's competent. He's capable. He's going to put all of that talent, all of that competence, and apply it to the government sector. But if you're not sure, you're saying, well, wait a minute. You did it in business, but there's no proof anywhere that you can translate that same success into government. So why is Trump still ahead? I'll tell you why. It's because right now, you can't prove or disprove his campaign narrative. In other words, it's a myth. And I'm not saying that in a pejorative way. A myth is something you can't really disprove. We can't definitively disprove that those talents that he's used in business will fail if he applies them to government. Nobody can disprove that. So therefore, those who believe that we need a radical change and we need business principles applied to government, they're going to keep supporting him. And in that sense, he didn't lose the debate because he kept emphasizing that. But those who are saying, I see problems, he's not prepared, he makes strange faces, he says things that are outlandish, all of those problems. Well, we can't, on the other hand, those of us who see the problems, we neither can prove that he's going to fail because he's never done anything in government. So the problem is there's a myth out there. It can't be proven and it can't be disproven. And the question is this: are the American people going to jump in and embrace this myth, regardless of facts, regardless of rational argument? And what is driving this willingness to jump in blindly to embrace the Donald Trump myth is the fact that the political class and the media class have failed. So they're basically saying, look, we're staring at failure on the one hand and the chance, the hope that this guy can succeed because he's succeeded personally. He's succeeded in the private sector. So maybe, just maybe, he's going to be able to bring that into the public sector. And he was asked very clearly, what makes you a great leader? And this is his answer.
I've actually been in politics all my life, although I've been on that side as opposed to this side. I'm now a politician for about 3 months. Obviously, I'm doing pretty well. I'm number one in every polls by a lot. But the qualification is that I've dealt with people all over the world, been successful all over the world. Everything I've done virtually has been a tremendous success. When markets changed, when things turned, I heard Governor Pataki, who, by the way, was a failed governor in New York, a very seriously failed. He wouldn't be elected dog catcher right now. I heard what he had to say. And I will tell you this. Atlantic City, I've made a tremendous amount of money in Atlantic City. I left 7 years ago. I've gotten great credit for my timing, and that's what I'm all about. I'm a businessman, did really well, and Jeb, what I want to do is put that ability into this country to make our country rich again, and I can do that, and I'm not sure that anybody else in the group will be able to do that.
Well, it's an awesome campaign theme, and it is a myth, as I said, that at this point we can't prove or disprove. He didn't win the debate, but he didn't lose it, and therefore he remains afloat. This is Dr. Grace, upholding values that will never die.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Welcome back to American Heartland with Dr. Grace. I'm the editor of Politics and Culture at worldtribune.com. You have folks on that debate stage that are surviving so far by the skin of their teeth. So many are in single digits, and their campaigns are teetering on the brink of total failure and collapse. At least Rick Perry had the grace to simply step aside. And there are a few others at this point who should consider packing it all in and making way for those who are doing well. One individual who I tried to save is Scott Walker. I delivered monologue after monologue. If you've been a fan of this show, you know. Trying to point out that he really had to pick up his game if he was going to stay afloat. And what we saw on the GOP debate stage is Scott Walker, I believe, is done. I agree with other analysts who have said the same. Roll it.
Yeah, he's trying to get some attention in many different ways. And talking about unions, obviously, is a gimme. He's also rolling out these day one promises. I think Scott Walker is done. I don't think he's going to be done soon, but I don't think he's going to be the front runner or the nominee. He, in the last debate, at your debate, was weak and canned and dull. And ever since, he's had these embarrassing flip-flops where he can't find a position on an issue. And then you ask him, what about the Syrian refugees? And he says, I can't deal with hypotheticals. He just doesn't seem up to the task.
He is not up to the task. He has floundered again and again and again. He has no grasp of foreign affairs. And right now, his narrative is very simple. He stood up to the unions in his own state, and thank you very much. You did a great job there in Wisconsin. And that's it. He's basically a one-trick pony. He has nothing else to offer. And as a result, his poll numbers have literally collapsed. He went from being a front runner at one point in Iowa to now he is just really nearing the bottom of the pit. And that is very telling because there's no recovering from that. What happened is essentially the voters wanted to get to know him. They had heard about the great work he had done in Wisconsin. And they want to say, well, let's see what's there. Can you take it to the national level? And he just wasn't able to do it. And that's very similar to others who have governed well and then they just cannot take it up to the next level. Rick Perry is another one of those. Excellent governor of Texas, lousy national candidate. Sarah Palin. She had her run in Alaska. I always said it was a big mistake that she didn't finish her term. But anyways, when she did govern, she was governing well, but just couldn't take it up to the national level. And really, on that debate stage, Scott Walker looked packaged. And if you analyze all the other candidates, I think there's a couple of others who really, in my view, they're done, they're finished. I don't think they can go very far. One of them is Rand Paul. I've always said I like Rand Paul a lot, but his foreign policy vision is just flawed and weak. And on the debate stage, when he was asked about Iran, he was clearly not up to the task. He's not as tough as the others on Iran. And I think right now, if you can't see how dangerous this Iran deal is, you're out. This is the greatest threat of our generation, of our lifetime. It is a direct threat to Israel, Iran getting nuclear weapons. It presents a direct threat to the Middle East. It's a threat, as Huckabee brilliantly said, to Western civilization itself and obviously to America. If you can't see that, if you can't articulate that, I'm sorry, get out. And there's another individual who I also think should just pack it in. And you'll be surprised, but it's John Kasich. I thought he was quite good in the other debate. But again, for me, Iran in this election is like a litmus test. I'm sorry, our national security is directly at stake. And if you can't get this right, you're done, in my view. Get out. And again, John Kasich was saying, oh, we're not going to rip it up on day one. That's irresponsible. I have all this experience, et cetera, et cetera. What does all experience amount to? He doesn't see clearly what an enormous threat Iran is. And let me be really controversial now and say there's another figure that I don't think has much of a chance, and it's Ben Carson. I know he's a favorite. I know he's likable. Hey, I like him too. And he's currently number 2. But on that debate stage, when he's asked specifics on policy, he doesn't have any. Good doctor, way out of his league as a political candidate. So who is left? Who did well, in my view? Apart from Chris Christie, I did think that Mike Huckabee did extremely well when he talked about the nature of the threat that Iran poses. That was an awesome moment, and I could see, for that brief moment, what a fantastic commander-in-chief he would be. And Ted Cruz also did very well in the content. What he said was awesome. However, there's a small problem emerging now with Ted Cruz. He's rehearsing too much. He's coming across as packaged. He's coming across as rehearsed, almost like an actor acting the politician. And I think if he wants to retain his status as the insurgent candidate who's going to challenge the establishment, he's also got to make sure that he comes across as natural and authentic. That's going to be his challenge going forward. But in terms of the content of his delivery, A+. So my assessment of this debate, the standouts for me were Huckabee, Ted Cruz, Chris Christie, the clear winner, and others like Trump and Jeb Bush stayed afloat. And then I think, for the most part, the rest should start to consider packing in their tent and going home. I don't think they have much of a shot based on what I saw that night. Now, another candidate, let's just switch gears for one moment. I've got to say this. One of my thoughts during the debate was, what a mistake the Democrats are making, relinquishing the floor to the Republican field like they are. where the Republicans are getting all the attention and they're so desperate to prop up Hillary Clinton that they don't even want to have enough debates. What is happening is that the Republicans are dominating the conversation and they're setting the agenda, and their issues and their point of view is getting airtime with no rebuttal. That's really stupid from the Democratic. If I were a Democrat, I would be very upset at that. As a conservative, I'm delighted that at least our issues are getting attention with such a vast field, such a dynamic race, and also the willingness of our candidates to talk to the press at all times and have all these debates. That's a plus for us. What's going on with Hillary is her poll numbers continue to drop, and she got even more bad news. The core of her support is now crumbling. Listen to Andrea Mitchell.
Hillary Clinton is reaching out to that group that she'd always counted on, white women voters, who are now abandoning her in droves during the last 2 months.
So the women are abandoning her in droves. Remember that for this campaign, she decided to do what she didn't do in 2008. In 2008, she didn't want to discuss gender. The gender issue was off the table. This time, she brought gender front and center. And she thought that's going to be the magic bullet. That's going to be my winning ticket because women will ride along with me. And guess where the women are going? They're flocking to the old white guy with white hair. That's what's happening. And you know why it's happening? Because women care about issues more than they care about gender. We've seen that again and again. Yes, ideally, they'd like a woman to be president, but it's got to be the right woman advocating for the right issues. Now they're willing to abandon this golden quest for this old white guy. Why? Because at least he seems to be authentic when she seems packaged and contrived and untrustworthy and deceitful. So Hillary Clinton, I've said for a long time, I think she's done too. And it's only a matter of time before Biden steps in the race and takes it away from her. Now, on the Republican side, apart from the debate this week, we saw full-fledged attacks against Donald Trump. One of these attacks came in an ad that is going to be blanketing Iowa, a huge ad buy the Club for Growth. Listen to this.
Which presidential candidate supports higher taxes, national health care, and the Wall Street bailout? It's Donald Trump.
In many cases, I probably identify more as a Democrat.
Trump wants us to think he's Mr. Tell It Like It Is, but he has a record, and it's very liberal. He's really just playing us for chumps. Trump, just another politician.
In many cases, I probably identify more as a Democrat.
Club for Growth Action is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Well, this ad is backfiring in the short run in the sense that it has been revealed that Club for Growth asked Donald Trump for a donation, $1 million donation, and he declined to give it to them. And so Trump has been able to seize this story and say, you see, I bet they wouldn't have run that negative ad against me had I given them the funds. So in the short run, this ad is not gaining much traction. The problem is this ad is raising a good question, a question that Trump is eventually going to have to sit down and answer. Even though he doesn't have a track record as a politician, he has taken political positions, say on the bailout, for example. He's going to have to answer it. And what I'd like to see moderators do is stop trying to get the field to attack one another, as they did at the CNN debate or the Fox News debate, but start asking each of the candidates specific questions based on their policy positions. Let's hear what Trump says about the bailout. His previous support for it, was it a mistake? Where does he stand? And the more we ask him political questions, we'll at least get a chance to ascertain whether or not he can apply the stellar business acumen that he possesses to the government sector. And another ad, too, gained attention this week, and that's an ad by Jeb Bush trying to present himself as the optimist and Donald Trump as the dark, brooding pessimist within the Republican field.
everywhere. Murders, crime. Believe me, very, very stupid people. You're finished. The American dream is dead. Give me a break.
My message will be an optimistic one, because I am certain that we can make the decades just ahead the greatest time ever to be alive in this world. That chance, that hope, requires the best that is in us. We will lift our sights again, make opportunity common again, growth that makes a difference for everyone. It's possible. It can be done. So many challenges could be overcome if we get a few big things right. We can make life better for millions of people in this nation where every life matters and everyone has the right to rise.
That is a very weak ad in my view. It's a weak ad because it doesn't take into account the truth that Donald Trump has put his finger on. The public is angry. The mood out there is gloomy. We don't need fake optimism. We need an accurate assessment of America's problems and a clear path forward. This ad is going to fail. You're listening to Dr. Grace, upholding values that will not die.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.